Hey everybody, Ozark coming here. So, as you can see the headline there in front of you, pretty messed up. There's a lot of things, many layers of what's messed up about this, but it pretty much well sums up everything wrong going on in our society. The fact that children can be exposed to this kind of thing, the fact that it has to be a mother who's, going to court to try to keep her child from being exposed to this kind of thing, that what really the crux of the entire matter comes down to is the fact that society is having to now confront the fact after being the 10-year behind conservative and sticking your head in the sand for so long, at least from the establishment and the pundits and the politicians on down. And unfortunately, the more, perhaps at the base, the conservative people who did stick to their guns, as far as their personal convictions, but boy, they didn't elect people who did they? South Carolina can't get much more, conservative than that. And they keep giving us Lindsey Graham. Kentucky keeps giving us, Kevin, and on and on. But at the crux of the issue, the fact that it had to be a mother doing this, the fact that she had to go to court, the fact that this is being publicly exposed, exposes the fact that this is not a natural occurrence. This is not something that, a child can see in public and it's appropriate. The topic itself is explicit and inappropriate for children, which really calls into question the entire morality behind it. And every statistic and everything you see on top of just the biblical Christian view of the entire thing in society. It's forcing a societal confrontation with the issues we have ignored and allowed to grow rampant. Now, a lot of young Western men see this. A lot of young Western men, especially Gen Z guys, they have been more indoctrinated with anti-Western, anti-white garbage, demonizing everything about traditional civilization and Western civilization, and therefore, especially these days, very openly Western people. They're seeing genocidal language against them. And they're looking for church, but the reason they can't find it on almost any end is because, to sum it up quickly, either they walk into church and it's supposed woke, it's infiltrated with so much secular humanism, the same garbage they're trying to get away from, derides traditional Western masculinity as toxic, derides the Western male, derides traditional family. They walk in there and they see everything wrong with it. They turn around and walk out, and the so-called Christians in there are going to say, oh, look, well, he's just not spiritual, folks. He's not woke. He's a bigot. And all the typical anti-white slurs you hear. So then he goes and he walks into, the thing is, these people do their research. They have smartphones. They are pretty good at research, and they're pretty adaptable too. A lot of them these days might not even know how to use a desktop computer very well, but they are pretty adaptable. And then they walk into the older traditional churches again, because of the bigger organizations. It's not really the New Testament local church that you saw in the New Testament. And again, they are compromise infiltrated. They walk into the supposed evangelical church, right? Oh, these guys, they really stuck to the social conservative principles. They keep voting for Lindsey Graham. They keep voting for Mitch McConnell. But hey, they stuck to their social principles, right? And in many ways, I will give these guys credit. They have had big families. They've passed on a lot of their traditional Western culture. But at the same time, they walk in and it's like walking into a rock concert. They look at the 60s hippie Eastern mysticism origins of modern contemporary Christian music, and they see the rock concert that they're walking in, and they see the guy up there in a Hawaiian shirt and skinny jeans, and this is not what I'm coming in here for, and it's not a traditional Christian. I don't know what it is, but it's not biblical Christianity, and they turn around and they walk out. And again, the people in there will look at him and say, oh, another guy, he just must not be spiritual, when the church is what's messed up. Again, these people have many of the traditional values. Now, you go to the rare church that has actually stuck to the biblical principles, bases things on the Bible, and upholds their traditional culture, upholds everything. Maybe they have not skipped on the principles. Even these guys now are tending to slip right as young men are looking for traditional churches. They're giving up on many of their principles. They're giving up on their standards and caving with biblical-based standards for modesty and other things. And they're maybe changing up their music a little bit. And these young guys are going to be the first to pick up on it. They are hungry for a good traditional church. But here is where they really fall short. And this one is going to sting. Because they are unbiblically. Again, these are the churches that may be doing almost everything else correctly. These are the churches that did the absolute best at preserving Western culture, Western people, again, our traditional faith, Christianity, the Bible, having big families, traditional family, standing up against a lot of the anti-Western agenda, and yet they promote another religion and another people. Another religion and another people that aren't even following their faith, no less, who reject Jesus Christ as the Messiah, no less. And they're promoting it above their own. And at the same time, they're not standing up for their people by name. You know, when everything in the Bible, everything says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And nation is not, in today's standards, some economic zone with tons of different ethnic groups and peoples in it with nothing in common, overruled by an unaccountable government. That is not what a nation was. Rome was not just the nation that was referred to in the Bible. It's a people. It's a common people, common heritage, ethnicity, ancestry, culture, language. Those are archaeologically things that are measured as a people, and it's because it reflects objective reality, as it did in the Bible. That was the ancient standard of what was considered a people. And these people and these ones, as their borders are being overrun and invaded, as the culture that their ancestors built by and for them is being completely destroyed, as their numbers are being decimated, as they're under attack, even the best traditional churches are just playing whack-a-mole. Like Matt Walsh, as good of a job as he's done standing against with a lot of these social issues. Matt talks about this is kind of anti-white, and this is, here and there, and he talks against intersectionalism and race baiting, but he doesn't talk at the heart of the matter. It's not just against Western civilization, but against the Western people. And why? Because of the CivNat perspective of wanting to have the big umbrella and include everybody. Because you're so afraid to speak up ethnically for your own people. And not only that, but then you perhaps even promote other people above your own. That's unbiblical. Would you have supported Jezebel and Ahab in biblical times? Would you have supported King Herod when the babies were being killed by him and everything? Oh, but they were chosen. No, they were not following God. In fact, many of the things they did were specifically trying to go after and destroy the prophets, the prophecies, and the thing is, Jesus explicitly said this, and he ordered the gospel to his people, to Judea, to Samaria, to the Greeks, to the uttermost parts of the earth. And they were ministered to, and like he pointed to the temple and said that not one rock would be left on the other. Like it says in 1 Corinthians, it talks about the time of the Gentiles, and there are different peoples, and different peoples can have different blessings. Each people, it says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And you have to, biblically speaking, you have to speak up just like Simon the Zealot did for his people. You have to speak up and care about your own people, much less, besides promoting another people and another religion above your own, above Jesus Christ as the Messiah. That is a biblical thing to do. And I'll tell you what, the most ardent churches who are absolutely stuck to their guns on every single other issue, minus some, minor doctrinal disagreements here and there, but stick straight to the Bible. This is I'm telling you, this is the destroying angel of young men seeking out a church, because they walk in, they not only see a false religion and another people promoted above their own, but then they see that they absolutely refuse to stand. These pastors, these churches refuse to stand up for their own people when they're under foreign invasion and when they're being attacked on the basis of their people. They're not standing up on behalf of their people and their nation. It's not just a flag in a giant economic zone inside open borders that are constantly under invasion when you won't even speak against it. Why? Because you're afraid to offend anybody else. Well, if the Hebrews had a guest, and the ancient Hebrews I'm talking about had a guest, they weren't afraid of speaking up on behalf of their own people. If you're in China and you're trying to live there and adjust there, they're not going to hide their own culture and civilization or avoid the fact that they're the founding people of that nation in order to avoid offending you. And you would be ridiculous to be offended by it. If that's the current state of our people in our society, and our churches have, even the most ardent churches, have caved to it, and they cave to it hard. Until you fix this issue, until Western churches actually stand up for Western people, by name and claim their own blessing as a people of God. You're not going to fix the issue. And the young men are rightfully going to be rebuffed by it. This is Ozark Hillman. Y'all have a good one.